Chapter 4, Safe Travels. Whenever you plan a vacation, you automatically assume you'll arrive at your destination safely. You put faith in the pilot's readiness to do their job and in their ability to fly the plane. You expect the flotation devices and oxygen masks will work in the event of an emergency. In business, you've got to create conditions in which your team members too feel safe in your hands as you lead them. Lovable leaders start with care and trust. People-focused qualities that require emotional labor. With just care and trust, you've got the conditions for a great team, but you haven't led anyone anywhere yet. To be a leader, you need to be going somewhere, which is why the third element of lovable leadership is about traveling. All travel requires two things: a destination and a reliable method of getting there. Leaders must focus on goals. You must set goals, but it's imperative that you get there safely. And safety. You must create safety for your teams, but to be a leader, you need to be going somewhere. Safe travels include defining your team, setting goals, embracing conflict, and repairing. Who should be on your team? At the start of your journey, you'll want to make sure you have the right team in place. This is the stage at which you must explicitly state the values of your team and the vision. By focusing on these attributes first and connecting with something deeper than a person's resume, you increase the likelihood that all of your team members will be willing to work together toward the same goal. This exercise can immediately, unintentionally, go off track, because we tend to hire people who are just like us. You see this in startup culture all the time. A brilliant 20-something white guy partners with close friends, all who happen to be white guys in their 20s, and launches a company. It's not long before the boys' club is back in business, and the environment is challenging for women and BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, members. There are benefits to a homogenous team. For instance, when everyone shares a similar background, cultural references are understood, jokes are inoffensive, and work can often move quickly. However, this leads to glaring blind spots both strategically and culturally. This is why the definition of a team should point to something deeper. There are certain commitments of a lovable team. If you can build your team vision and values while honoring these principles, you should be on the right path toward building a dynamic, diverse, inclusive, and safe team where everyone can show up as their best selves. There are 8 commitments of a team that can travel together safely. 1. Safety and protection. 2. Communication guidelines. 3. Alignment. 4. Ownership. 5. Growth. 6. Courage. 7. Resilience. And 8. Cooperation. Let's look at each of these in more detail. 1. Safety and protection. As the leader, you must set a shining example, but every member of the team must embrace the call to safety. Each person must commit to stepping up and protecting their teammates. You must create an environment in which, if a team member feels disrespected, discriminated against, or on the receiving end of microaggressions, or unsafe because of harassment of any kind, they trust, without any fear of repercussion, that those concerns will be addressed seriously. Likewise, if a team member sees something inappropriate, it is their duty to speak up. Bad behavior that is overlooked is implicitly endorsed. No one, no matter how valuable, how high on the org chart, or how long their tenure is, can be exempt from accountability for their actions. This is not to say that all incidents must end with dismissal from the team. However, people being held accountable should never expect retribution, only reconciliation and commitment to resolving the issues. This commitment to safety and protection is an ongoing learning experience for everyone on the team, because we all bring our bad habits and unconscious biases with us. None of us know what we don't know. Accepting this, we work on it. We commit to it. A substantial part of creating an environment of safety and culture of protection is a commitment to fight discrimination in all of its forms, and to create a culture of equity by focusing on diversity, inclusion, and representation. Admittedly, diversity and inclusion is not my area of expertise, so I will be brief. But I believe it is extremely important for all leaders to educate themselves. For a list of books on diversity and inclusion, go to lovableleader.com/extras. They're a good place to start to learn more about this subject. Every team member must commit to fighting prejudice and discrimination on behalf of their team. No matter who you are, how you were raised, or what you look like, but especially if you are a cisgender, straight, white male who's listening to this audiobook, You are responsible for creating an environment for all of your team members in which to grow. Representation at all levels of the company is crucial for creating an environment where people are safe and included. It's not enough to hire diverse people so that you can put them on your website and check the diversity box. According to the Harvard Business Review article, Diversity Doesn't Stick Without Inclusion by Laura Sherbin and Ripa Rashid, inclusive leadership is a conglomeration of 6 behaviors, ensuring that team members speak up and are heard, making it safe to propose novel ideas, empowering team members to make decisions, taking advice and implementing feedback, giving actionable feedback, and sharing credit for team success. Your responsibility is to ensure not only that you build a diverse team, but also that you include each person on that team. Opportunities for advancement need to be thoughtfully put together with the help of varying viewpoints. Opportunities for advancement must also be communicated in a way that does not allow for the language and framing of the position to exclude applicants of varying races, abilities, genders, and sexual orientations or gender identities from pursuing them. None of this should be groundbreaking, right? Yet, despite the commonsensical nature of creating a safe environment with equal opportunity, many companies simply do not. Whether because of unconscious bias or flat-out discrimination, many teams struggle to implement diversity programs and the subsequent inclusion. Discrimination and bias can show up in policies around dress codes or conduct that may unfairly disadvantage minorities, women, or members of the LGBTQIA community. Some of these policies position a certain way of dressing or certain hairstyles as unprofessional. They may not consider how those policies reinforce a discriminatory position that punishes one culture for not assimilating into the dominant group or in-group culture. For years, the conversation around culture has been about finding people who fit. When you find people who fit, you're filling an open space. Often the people who most easily fit that open space are the same as those already there. A better approach is to focus on adding to your culture. To avoid creating an exclusive and homogenous culture, look for people who bring new perspectives, different backgrounds, and unique personalities. The best web developer for your team is not necessarily local. The best strategist for your team didn't necessarily go to an Ivy League school. The best CFO isn't necessarily a man. The best project manager isn't necessarily neurotypical. The best HR manager isn't necessarily cisgender. If you are truly committed to putting together the best team, then it needs to be open to and safe for everyone. 2. Communication guidelines. Every team member must commit to understanding the impact of their words and actions and agree to communication guidelines that create opportunities for understanding and growth. This commitment sets the expectations for everyone about how communication will be handled. Everyone should be on the same page about how they will speak to others and how they can expect to be spoken to. Note, this is not about tone policing. If someone has been harmed through harassment or discrimination, the communication guidelines do not apply to the person who has been harmed. This commitment is about everyday communication. For example, Karen commits a racist microaggression against Barbara. It is not Barbara's responsibility to be nice and frame her feedback in a way that doesn't make Karen feel uncomfortable. It is Karen's responsibility to take accountability and make amends. If Donald makes a sexually suggestive remark to Cindy, she does not have to calm down and be more respectful. Her emotional response to the harm is not the issue. His harmful actions are. All teams, whether they be sports, business, military, or anything else, will have different communication expectations. There will be varying degrees of comfort as it relates to speed, directness, and tone. In general, I believe that the most effective communication is direct, concise, honest, thoughtful, and respectful. This is an ideal combination for a variety of reasons. When communication is direct, there is no need to try and interpret meaning. When it is concise, there's less chance of getting lost amid unnecessary details. When it is honest, there is never a need to second-guess the intentions. When it is thoughtful, people communicate after they've considered what they're saying, why they are saying it, and what they hope to accomplish by saying it. When it is respectful, people are less likely to take the information as a personal attack and leap to defend themselves. Kindness can be added to the list. When your communication is kind, you will naturally refrain from making underhanded or passive-aggressive comments. I know some organizations thrive on brutal honesty, but I've yet to find someone who takes issue with kindness. Here's a tip. Be aware of the rift. The easiest way to cause a rift between you and someone else is with words. Everyone on your team must understand this. Sometimes it's careless, sometimes it's thoughtless. The tone of what is said could be intentional or unintentional. It doesn't matter, because it is not forgotten. We may forgive, but we do not forget those who hurt us or the sting of those words. When we are hurt, we trust a little less and we protect ourselves more. Poor communication is a liability. Too often, we say things in the heat of the moment only to realize later that we were wrong, had bad information, or would have accomplished a better result with different words and tone. This is why I stress to my clients, my team, and my friends the importance of carefully considering words and tone. While the rift can also be mended with words, it will take much longer to repair than it did to create it. As a lovable leader, you must be clear in your vision, so as a result, you walk softly, gather all of the information, and give thoughtful responses designed to produce the most positive outcome. You see little benefit in accusations or causing people to feel bad, as it is rarely the way to build loyalty or inspire hard work. Be careful with your words, knowing that once something has been spoken, it cannot be taken back. Negativity can be infectious. When a true outbreak occurs, it can spread rapidly to infect even the most optimistic team members. The consequences of spreading negativity can be dire. The best organizations don't take sides against each other internally. They are all on the same side. By equipping your team with the tools for respectful and productive conversations, you create an environment in which everyone feels comfortable dealing with problematic situations directly. 3. Alignment. Great teams succeed not because of their individual talents, but because of their willingness to align around a mission together. On a high-functioning team, accountability for team alignment is held by the group. This must be a shared responsibility. Each team member needs to be willing to align with the team and keep their teammates moving in the same direction too. As the old adage goes, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. A great team will be committed not just to the destination, but also to the process of getting there. Note, however, that alignment is different from agreement. Alignment often requires people to disagree and still solve problems in the service of moving together toward something bigger. 4. Ownership. Every team member must commit to taking complete ownership of their role and team. As I mentioned earlier, leaders take ownership. If you want a team of leaders, then you need a team of owners. Owners step up even when it's not their responsibility. Owners acknowledge their mistakes and failures and take it upon themselves to fix the problem. Accountability and ownership are contagious. You don't want to be in a babysitter role, assigning blame and trying to get people to take their jobs seriously. You want people committed to ownership from day one. 5. Growth. If you try to change how people do their jobs, the results are likely to be shallow and short-lived. If someone truly commits to building a new habit and sees their efforts rewarded, you may see success. But when you merely teach someone what to do, they will not be well equipped to adapt. To succeed in both structured and unstructured situations, you need to change how they think. One of my clients, let's call her Ava, was a new manager for a co-working space. She was responsible for training a new junior associate on giving tours and selling the space to prospective tenants. The associate, Michelle, was young and relatively inexperienced in sales. Like many people, she didn't really like sales. She said it felt icky. Because it was Ava's job to help her junior associate develop her sales competency, naturally she began by testing Michelle on raw information. What different sizes are the office spaces? Can members get their mail delivered here? What sort of companies work in this space? Where is the coffee? I reminded Ava that all of these questions could be answered on a sheet of paper or listed on a website. Obviously, it was important that Michelle knew the answers. However, memorization of the facts would not help her become a better salesperson, but simply a more animated FAQ page. What could Ava do? Would handing Michelle a script help? What about reviewing the steps of the process? How about providing the most effective sales tools or commonly requested resources? Although all of those things would assist Michelle and make the job a little easier and more comfortable, they wouldn't turn her into a better salesperson because they wouldn't change her relationship to the act of selling. But that's what Ava was after. How could Ava transform Michelle into a sales rock star? When it's a question of growth, the answer usually isn't in providing more information. It's in the mindset. Ava loved sales, and she was phenomenal at it. So I asked her to think about the way she sold, to analyze what she would think about during a sales appointment, and to explore the feeling of exhilaration she gets as a sale is about to close. After some digging into her own psyche, Ava realized that when she met someone in a sales appointment, she was excited because that person could be the newest addition to her community. Because it was her community, she felt complete ownership and pride, and she was fiercely protective. When she played out the whole thought process, she realized that ultimately, she was on a mission to create a space where everyone loves coming into work. For Ava, this vision drove every sale. This gave her the confidence and motivation in sales situations. It allowed her to be friendly and calm. It's what made sales so easy for her. Great. So now we knew how we wanted her associate to feel. There was just one problem. She couldn't give Michelle that motivation, confidence, or calm and friendly demeanor like a Hallmark card. She had to plant the seed that would grow into that mindset. In this example, that seed is ownership. So Ava set out to plant this seed for a new mindset and then proceeded to water it until it blossomed. She started by talking to Michelle regularly about the ownership mindset. She spoke to her as an equal and a peer rather than as a manager. Ava gave Michelle freedom while still making herself available to support her. She introduced Michelle to every existing tenant and encouraged her to get to know them so that she, too, felt like part of the community. Once Michelle began thinking like an owner, she was no longer selling. She was building and protecting something that belonged, in part, to her. Leadership often can be as simple as illuminating something someone else would not have seen without the light you shine. 6. Courage. Every team member must commit to bold and courageous acts for the team. Great leaders are willing to venture into the unknown and take risks. They present calmness and clarity in the face of adversity. They thrive under pressure. These are the people who always rise to the occasion. Now, imagine an entire room of people like this. Alexander the Great said, quote, "I am not afraid of an army of lions led by a sheep. I am afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion." Can you imagine what Alexander might have thought about an army of lions led by a lion? A courageous team will continuously push forward with a dauntless leader out front, forging the way. 7. Resilience. To deal with problems, you must embrace the principle of resilience. How you build and lead your team must encourage and foster resilience. Problems will arise even upon mastery of the lovable leader concept. I know, I was shocked too. No organization is perfect. Team members won't always agree. Work won't always be up to your standards. But business and leadership aren't about perfection. And in some ways, they aren't even about the pursuit of perfection. Instead, pursue an ever-improving ability to navigate complex situations and rectify mistakes. Leadership is about being resilient in the face of adversity and challenges. Team members may fight even in the best organizations. Projects will run long, miss deadlines, and go over budget. And I hate to break it to you, there will be difficult conversations with your team. Sorry, but it's the truth. That said, there are ways to deal with conflict effectively and ways to make the situation worse. Before you can even approach a conflict resolution, you must first set the conditions on your team that properly contextualize conflict as an expected part of the process. In a lovable leadership environment, people should feel supported and, as a result, comfortable addressing problems directly, productively, and a tone that yields positive outcomes. If team members don't feel as though they can be honest and forthright, then the conditions for productive conversations have been suppressed by a lack of trust. People must feel comfortable enough to have open and honest discussions and be equipped with the tools to ensure that those conversations yield productive outcomes. These are the conditions for a resilient organization. When conflict is seen as a standard component of any organization, it can be reframed as a tool to make your team stronger by way of how you overcome adversity. Think of conflict as similar to kintsugi. Kintsugi, meaning golden repair, is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with lacquer dusted or mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. A method similar to the Japanese maki-e technique. As a philosophy, kintsugi treats breakage and repair as part of the history of an object, rather than as something to disguise. Our cracks, scratches, and scars are the very things that make us stronger as people. The unchallenged individual is rarely the strongest, and the person who has seen only modest adversity is ill-equipped to handle it in the future. Great teams triumph in spite of adversity. Team members may fight with one another along the way, but once they overcome their differences and bond together, they are far stronger than they ever could have been without the struggle. 8. Cooperation. My wife has a group of friends from college with whom we get together twice a year. We play a lot of board games and the occasional game of beer pong. One game we routinely play is called You Don't Know Jack Trivia Murder Party. It's a series of fun trivia games with a humorous horror movie theme. It's a terrific party game. In it, a small challenge called Decisions adapts the classic Prisoner's Dilemma. In this game, there's a pile of money. You can choose to take it or not. If nobody takes the money, nobody dies. If some take the money, everyone who didn't will die. If you all take the money, all of you die. Players who take the money will earn 2,000 divided by the number of players who took the money. Only one move here is mutually beneficial. If we cooperate and no one takes the money, then everyone makes it out alive. But no matter how many times I've played this game with this group, no one has ever taken me up on the offer to leave the money, and inevitably, I die. The incentive in this game is to win, and therefore, most people feel the smartest move is to screw over the competition. In a party video game, that is the smartest move, and given my track record, I should probably start taking the money. However, in your career, the smartest option is often to survive another day and live to fight another battle. The goal shouldn't be for me to win. It should be for us to win. Life, unlike trivia games, does not have to be a zero-sum game. It's easy to see why we fall for it. Life can often feel like a game of me against the world. Many of us have worked in jobs where we have had to prove ourselves, justify our time or actions, or fight for the right to be heard or respected. Hands up if you've ever felt that way. But when we see life with a me against the world mindset, someone always wins and someone always loses. Someone must be right. Someone must be wrong. Applying this mindset to your leadership is a dicey game. You see team members as subordinates, and your conversations go a particular way. You reactively let everyone know what they have done wrong and what they must improve to regain your favor. But when you attack, naturally, they defend. Except, unlike in trivia games, everyone loses. Consider that as you detail every reason your team member is wrong. They might be doing something else. Protecting their ego by rationalizing with excuses. Finding logical reasons they are not wrong. Seeking out someone else to divert the blame to. Searching their mental database for every instance you've not done what you said you would do. Hooray for progress, right? A few months later, every interaction that same employee has with you is tainted by preconceived ideas about how you will behave. Based on your previous attack, they come ready to defend. How will it impact your work environment when people are walking around with their defenses up? The only way to win in this real-life game is to change the rules. What if instead of playing against each other in a game of attack and defend, you could play join teams together? This calls into question what it means to win. Many people approach conflict seeking to overpower others with their ideas and perspectives, and so achieve victory. But the lovable leader takes a different approach. A lovable leader's version of a win is when both parties walk away with more trust in each other, rather than less. A lovable leader wins when both parties feel heard and acknowledged. Winning in the context of lovable leadership is a win-win situation, not a win-lose situation. And when you exemplify this cooperative approach, as well as expect it from the rest of your team toward each other, you are fostering an environment that is conducive to success in the pursuit of common goals. Goals, productive conflict, and repairs. Chapter 7 is all about setting goals. So regarding goals and safe travels, I'll be brief and simply say that if you have care and trust, and you've assembled the best team of members who have all made the 8 commitments, you still need somewhere to go. That is, toward your goals. They are the part that technically makes you a leader. The other qualities are what make you worth following. Along the way toward any destination, problems are likely. These problems can be minor, like a miscommunication, a disagreement over something small, or a goal not being hit on time. They can also be about something major and consequential, such as 2 teammates refusing to work together, a fundamental disagreement about the end goals, or a complete breakdown in operations that threatens the entire mission. Regardless of the situation, action is almost universally preferable to inaction. Even if action will create conflict, in fact, conflict is one of your most important tools. Productive conflict is a term I've been using for years, but you may be more familiar with it from Leanne Davies' book, The Good Fight. Regardless of whether your introduction to these topics is here, through The Good Fight, or somewhere else, Here's the gist of it. People tend to avoid conflict and have negative associations with the word. I see conflict as a resoundingly positive event. Conflict is a collision between two things. The outcome of a conflict is a resolution. Therefore, deliberately engaging in conflict is the fastest path to a resolution. In situations where you are at an impasse of indecision or waiting on something to happen, you can initiate conflict to arrive at the next step. For example, say you're a videographer and you're waiting on your client to give you feedback on the first draft so that you can finish the project before your next one starts. The client is already 2 days late. If you don't get the feedback in the next 48 hours, the entire timeline will be thrown off. As a result, you will have to either postpone the project for a full month, which will push back your upcoming project, or work nights and weekends to get it all done. Any of these options could be costly. What should you do? Many people would quietly stew and be upset. Perhaps they'd even let this anxiety or frustration cause them to lash out at the client, or take a tone that conveys impatience. But you are a lovable leader, and you know that the better move is to initiate productive conflict. Sure, you could send an email, but you know that it could take a day or more for them to even see it, so you call them. Your goal for the call is to use the conflict in order to resolve what will definitively happen next. You say, "Hi, John. I wanted to give you a quick call. I know you're busy, but I also know how important this project is to you. I'm currently awaiting feedback from your team, and I wanted to give you the heads up. I have another project starting in 10 days, and I want to make sure I can deliver your project in time. If I get the feedback from you in the next 48 hours, I'll still have time to deliver your project. If not, I'm going to have to postpone the final deliverable for about a month. How would you like to proceed? Shall we push the project back, or do you think your team will have the feedback in time?" There is close to a 0% chance that you end that phone call without a resolution. Productive conflict is a method by which you can initiate a collision in the service of resolving inaction or uncertainty. When you experience a problem with another team member, addressing it as soon as possible and directly allows for discussion and resolution, instead of letting negative emotions fester in your or their mind. In situations where any sort of decision needs to be made, creating a space for the collision of options facilitates an outcome. These sorts of conflicts are the key to team alignment, transparency, and trust. Practice the 8 commitments to ensure that your conflicts are productive rather than destructive. Even conflict must feel like a safe space in which to communicate and work through problems and ideas. The final component of Safe Travels is about repairs, fixing things when they break. In Chapter 9, I cover various conflict resolution scenarios and provide a full toolkit for managing problems. What's important regarding Safe Travels is your ongoing commitment to fixing things as they break. Sometimes you will have to replace a team member. Sometimes you will have to revisit your goals and strategy. You need to maintain a mindset of accepting and embracing change and being willing to do the work to make repairs. But what about fear? It's true that it's easier to become a feared leader than it is to become loved. But is it more effective? This is a rhetorical question, and there is no one distinct answer to it. Humans are too complex and differing for one rule of behavior to fit all. So I'd be foolish to suggest that every great leader was lovable. But I don't think it's outlandish to claim that few of history's most effective leaders caused their teams to operate in perpetual states of fear. The stress of regularly feeling fear can lead to serious physical and emotional problems that can reduce people's effectiveness and productivity. When we are scared, we operate in self-preservation mode to survive. Certainly, in certain scenarios and when applied properly, fear can be a useful tool, but it also causes infighting and backstabbing. When overused or used at the wrong time, fear can destroy productivity and morale, and even permanently decimate a relationship. Fear-based leaders may suggest that the fear keeps their team focused and compliant, and that love-based leadership is wimpy and commands no respect or power. Love-based leaders may believe that their approach keeps teams happy and motivated, and that tyrannical leadership alienates good employees who will leave the moment something better comes around. To either perspective, I would say that the world is not so black and white. Somewhere between fear and love, there must be examples of leaders who command a healthy respect based in fear in an otherwise loving environment. Creating an environment in which you are trusted and where fear is replaced with respect is possible. In truth, it doesn't take much to make this shift. If your leadership comes with a title or implied authority, don't lean on it. There is no need. Your authority is understood. You will command far more respect and have far more success with a simple shift. Pivot from sitting across the table, where you lean on the fear response that arises when people fear losing their job, to sitting on the same side of the table, where you can put the focus back on shared goals and your willingness to offer support. Don't use threats to coerce action. Speak of support instead, such that the consequences of failure would be shared by both of you. For example, instead of, "Joe, you need to start hitting your quota. I'm putting you on a 30-day performance plan. If you don't start making significant progress, we're going to need to go in a different direction." A lovable leader would say, "Joe, more than anything, I want to see you succeed in this role. Right now, I know you're struggling, but I want to help. Let's talk about what sort of support you need from me and the team so you have what you need to start consistently hitting your quotas. I want you to continue being part of this team, so let's figure out how we can make that happen." We feel the need to announce our authority, to exact punishment and harm only when our egos feel threatened, or we have chosen not to use our influence and kindness. Be thoughtful about your role. Do not cause your team to worry constantly and panic whenever something goes wrong. Lovable leaders wield not only influence but also respect. This is how teams with intense loyalty and grit are built. Lovable Leaders Cheat Sheet. Safe travels means I will make sure it is safe on the way toward our goals. Guide the team to make commitments that ensure safety because our team is defined by what we commit to. Ensure we all embrace productive conflict to resolve uncertainty or inaction. Be vigilant about making repairs to the team. Always choose to lead with love over fear.